Hi, good evening, everybody, and welcome to. I think this is the last episode of 2020 of Eclectica, and I welcome all of you in this episode of Eclectica today. Well, have you heard the term or something, the name called FELUDA? Well, I belong from West Bengal, and when it comes to films and West Bengal, one name I think which is worldwide known is Satyajit Ray. Yes. Well, I'm not talking about the fictional character that Satyajit Ray has come up through his movies and stories, but today I have a very, very interesting guest. And meanwhile, very recently you might have somewhere read about him or read about Feluda. Yes, so today I am going to call in my studio inside Eclectica to Dr. Debojyoti Chakraborty. So he is the new era Feluda. So let me just see if my guest is here and I will call him in and then I will introduce this fascinating personality in front of all of you. Uh, Hi Debojyoti, thank you for joining and welcome to Eclectica today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk to you here.
It's a real privilege to see the new era Feluda. So I was just telling my audience that what exactly is what why is Feluda so famous. So before asking you about Feluda and talking to the real Feluda, now I think that's the tag which has been put with your name. So. First, let me just tell my audience about Dr. Chakraborty. It's a long list, so I will take help of the notes as well to read about him. So, Dr. Debojyoti Chakraborty heads a RNA Biology group at CSIR-Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology, New Delhi, India, where he currently holds a senior scientist position. He is now well known as the New Era FELUDA. There is a reason behind it because recently Dr. Debojyoti has developed a point of care test, which is acronymed or abbreviated as FELUDA, which reads as F9-Cas9 editor linked uniform detection assay. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Debojyoti. Using
Fine.
CRISPR-Cas technology for the detection of COVID-19, that is SARS-CoV-2. His laboratory focuses on the dissection of novel factors that modulate cellular pathways, enable identification of pathogenic conditions, and generate therapeutic strategies. Along with his team, Dr. Chakraborty developed genome editing tools and applied them to identify, model, and correct disease mutations. So, if anybody is interested to see what kind of work Dr. Chakraborty and his team does, I have given the link to his website of through his lab in this description of this video, and you can very well see. Well, Debojyoti, I will take some 2 more minutes from you because your introduction actually hasn't ended. So
Yeah.
now that you have known the scientist, he has as well another accolade with him. He is also a award-winning sitarist. So sitar is a very famous instrument in Indian classical music. So he is known for concerts and stage performances in India and Europe since 1996. He has been featured in Indian, British, and German radio and television. He has performed and has given many performances and done workshops at Indian Embassy Berlin, Technical University of Dresden, Germany, University of Wrocław, Poland, University of Leipzig, as well as the very dear of all the Bengalis, All India Radio Kolkata. He's also a member of Dhun, which is a Indo-European Oriental ensemble, and a past member of Pangea Trio, a Dresden-based jazz group. So, Debojyoti, once again, I welcome and thank you for joining today. And well, how are you doing in this COVID times? That is the first thing that I would like to know from you.
So thank you. That was a very generous introduction. I think it's way a little bit overboard. I'm just a student of science and Sita really we just learning it as I go.
Hmm.
So I am the COVID-19 is has been affecting all of us in different ways, and it has turned life upside down a bit, also for us as scientists as well, because I think it has given opportunities to really bring our innovations, our
Right.
capabilities, to help people. And I think that way it has been quite busy. I think it's been we have been happily busy, and we are still working on different aspects of COVID-19 detection and targeting and so on. So yes, it's been quite a year, like most of us, I think.
Thank you. I mean, that's really fascinating to know, and it's good that you have actually delved in. And I understand as well from the field, being from the field of science, that you have actually come up with a solution which was very much needed at this point of time, because the general test for COVID-19 at present is RT-PCR. I mean, that is the gold standard, and also the time taken for doing the test and report. I mean, that's kind of a very very big cycle. And what you have bought is, I mean, what you have brought in the society is a point of care test which does not need any laboratory, that high end laboratory involvement. So I think that is really fascinating, and I would definitely take this conversation forward. But I would just like to understand one thing from you, that what was your inspiration in creating this new avatar of Feluda in this particular COVID-19 time? Because whenever we say Feluda, at least for Bengalis, it is something, that flash of Shomito Chatterjee will come, and it's all about Satyajit Ray. So what made you give give this name, which I want to really understand? Yeah.
So I first should say that the credit for the name actually goes to my wife. She
Oh.
we were discussing about a possible name for this test, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a CRISPR based test. It's a CRISPR based diagnostic, and we are not the first ones in the world to work on this or
Mm.
develop technology based on this. So there
Mm.
were similar tests which are let's say made popular by scientists at MIT and University of California, Berkeley,
Right.
and also in China, and they had given names such as Sherlock and Detector
Mm-hmm.
and Holmes and so on. So we thought that we will also play a punchline with a have a punchline with a name which would be an Indian detective, because it's coming from India. And we were thinking what could be the possible name. And then Isha, who is my wife, she actually came up with the idea that the name of the enzyme that we are using is FNCas9. And
Mm-hmm.
as we were going through names, Bomkesh was one of the first things that came to mind. But then
Okay.
and Feluda were immediately picked up, and then we came up with the name Feluda. And later on, when we developed a smartphone app for analyzing Feluda data, we also came up with the idea of Topshe, true outcome predicted by strip evaluation. And then we also
Fantastic.
developed a web server, because Feluda is not complete without Topshe and Jotayu. So
Yes. Yes.
we have a web server called jotayu.igib.res.in, where you can
Oh.
actually design a full Feluda experiment junction for the analysis and target design of your Feluda assay. That's the full name of Jotayu. As scientists, we do not have too much of opportunities to be creative, creative aesthetically, I would say. So this was one of the few opportunities, and I'm glad that the name has caught up within the Bengali community and the greater Indian community, because the response has been quite fascinating.
Yes, yes. And Debojyoti, what can you just tell in a, because we have a very versatile kind of audience. So can you tell me that what exactly is the principle behind the point of care technique? I mean, the point of care device that you have come up, that is behind Feluda, and can you enlighten us basically on the concept of this particular technology? Yeah.
Right. So I must clarify two things over here. One is that it is not truly point of care yet. It is still has to be done in a lab. And two, it is let's say it doesn't. So the lab part is still there. What we have
Mm-hmm.
actually tried to do over here is that, you talked about the gold standard RT-PCR test.
Hmm.
So I will come to how COVID-19 is detected, where
Yeah.
RT-PCR comes into the picture. So generally, when you have the SARS-CoV-2 infection, there are three modes of detecting this. One is that you do what is called a quantitative real-time PCR, which is a nucleic acid test. It detects the RNA of the virus inside your sample, which can be a throat sample or a nasopharyngeal sample, and so on. Then there is an antibody test, which basically detects whether you have had a past exposure to the
Hmm.
virus and your body has developed antibodies against it. It doesn't tell us about your current exposure because it is antibodies develop after a certain period of time to the so that's the same principle as a vaccine basically. And then the third is called an antigen test, and you have heard a lot about rapid antigen tests and so
Yeah.
on
Yes.
in the news. So the antigen test is a method by which you're trying to detect the viral protein. So in the first case, for a quantitative real-time PCR, you are detecting the viral RNA or the nucleic acid. In the antigen test, you are detecting the viral protein. These are the only two tests which can give you the current status of infection. Now, the
Right.
problem with detecting a viral protein is that you need a very sensitive detector to actually detect very tiny amounts of viral protein, and there is no amplification or making multiple copies of the viral
Hmm.
protein to make it amenable to detection.
Hmm.
Therefore, antigen tests are sensitive, are specific, which means that if you call it as a positive, then it definitely is a positive. But it is not sensitive, meaning that if you have low copies of virus or moderate
Hmm.
copies of virus, then the antigen test might be missing them because it is not
Correct.
sensitive. The
Right.
only gold standard test that is sensitive enough to pick across wide ranges of viral copies is the quantitative real-time PCR, which uses a machine which
Mm-hmm.
costs somewhere around 20 lakhs. So because of this high cost of this machine,
Hmm.
it is present only in a few places in the country, and that is why you have
Right.
this long queues and the long
Hmm.
waiting times and so on. On the other hand, there is a machine called a normal PCR or polymerase chain reaction machine, which costs about
Mm-hmm.
70,000 or 80,000, and this is present in pathology labs in universities, in some schools as
Right.
well, and
Hmm.
types of things. So the CRISPR test that we developed is actually can be done using the same PCR machine, which means that you can amplify the testing by 20 times because the cost is almost
Oh.
1/20th the cost of a qPCR machine, and therefore you can reach more people, whether it is in towns or
Hmm.
villages or in remote areas, because a PCR machine is more easily available and can be also moved from place to place. So that is the
Correct.
advantage of Veluda. But the most important thing is that it has the same sensitivity and specificity as a QRT-PCR. So therefore, we are not compromising on the quality of the data. You
Hmm.
will still have the same sensitivity and specificity, and that is why the ICMR approval contains the line that it can be used to replace the quantitative real-time PCR. You do not have to
Fantastic.
do the QRT-PCR again to
Right.
validate. And
Okay.
the principle is works on the principle of a protein, which is a CRISPR-Cas9, a Cas9 protein, which, as you might know, that has won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in
Yes.
2020,
Yes.
2020. And this Cas9 protein is works like a postman. If you tell it with a letter that this is the address, you need to go and
Mm-hmm.
specifically go to that address and deliver a post, then it will go specifically to a small sequence on the DNA basically. In this case, we are telling this Cas9 protein, a very special one, which we characterized in the lab, to go
Mm-hmm.
and specifically recognize the SARS-CoV signature, and it does that very very efficiently. And then we combined it with a paper strip chemistry to make
Hmm.
the readout very very visual, very very simple, so that almost like a pregnancy strip,
Hmm.
you can see a band on a paper strip and detect whether the person is positive or negative. Of course, the pregnancy strip works on the principle of protein-protein interaction. In the case of FELUDA, you are actually working on the principle of DNA-protein interaction. So that is the whole.
Okay. Okay, I think that is very well explained, and I think my question relate was next question was something like that only, which you have partially answered as well. That when it comes to generally, as we know that when it comes to point of care test, there are two things, like as you already mentioned, that is sensitivity and specificity. That is one thing which has to be which already comes in the surface, that question particularly for the test. So. I just want to know that can you enlighten us on, like if I ask you that, like how you can place FELUDA as a comparison, like if I start comparing 2 3 tests which are available, so where
Right.
exactly you place FELUDA in terms of sensitivity and specificity, because this is something which is a very vital decision that has to be taken
Correct.
with COVID-19. Yeah.
So FELUDA is right at the top. Like I said, the sensitivity and specificity as at par with a quantitative real-time PCR test.
Hmm.
When we say at par, it is for FDA. This value has to be above 95% with a gold standard. So gold standard in this case is a quantitative real-time PCR. And FELUDA, when the approvals were got from our commercial partner, which is Tata Medical and Diagnostics,
Hmm.
it performed with a sensitivity of 96% and 98% specificity. Of course, this value
Fantastic.
of 96 and 98 is, it keeps on fluctuating because that 5% there is always an error. So
Yes.
some days it even perform at 100%, 100%, for example.
Right.
But that is generally the range at which it performs, and I think it's very high. We routinely in the lab, for example, it works at almost 100% specificity, 97, 98% sensitivity. So
Hmm.
it around that number.
I think that's really amazing. And yeah, so from this point, Debojyoti, I was just wondering, like, is it possible that we start using FELUDA as a, just like a pregnancy kit, that's like, we go and purchase and bring it, and the test is done. So is it possible for self testing, or do you have any plans in the future to develop such kind of a thing, which I think would be very, very useful to the society?
That's a plan, yes. Of course, we have a prototype of it which we also
Hmm.
developed in the lab, and the critical thing here is that it is a nucleic acid test. It is not a
Hmm.
protein like a pregnancy strip. So therefore,
Right.
it needs to have a step of amplification, which is a
Hmm.
polymerase chain reaction, which needs generally a machine to do. So we have prototypes where we do not we have or well, let's say we have reduced the need for machines, and we have
Hmm.
versions 2 and version 3 which doesn't require a machine.
Hmm.
We also have possibilities of making this almost amenable to a point of care, let's say, where one can do this in a doctor's chamber or
Hmm.
at the local care or setting, or
Yes.
somebody to the house and does this in front of you, and so on.
Hmm.
Self testing is something a little bit a critical aspect, because a test has to be so simple that every single person, not just somebody who has a some idea about
Hmm.
let's say the basis of the test, but
Hmm.
actually people who are really laymen to do that
Right.
test. So whether or not we in the society or in the Indian society have reached a point where everybody can do a self test is still, I think, doubtful. Because you need to make sure that, because this is a critical test, right? The
Yes.
output
Yes.
is going to determine whether you should quarantine yourself, whether you should let others know,
Correct.
and so. So all these things have to be taken into consideration. There's a lot of work that we are putting into to try and see how far we can take it closer to home, let's say, and also talking to regulators and the policymakers to see whether we are even ready for doing a self test like this at home. So
Yeah.
we will see. I mean, we have some versions which we hope might be useful to take it even closer to point of care, where it will enable return to colleges and schools
Hmm.
and airports and so on. But we will see. This is this is a work in progress. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic, Debojyoti. And Debojyoti, what would be, just for out of my curiosity, like has FELUDA come in the market already, or like what would be the, if it comes, also if it is the future plan as well? So what do you think it would cost us to, if I want to take up the test? So what would it
Yeah.
cost?
So these are generally actually the questions which we are also not very clear about, because we
Yeah.
are the inventors,
Hmm.
this the costing and also the timelines and so on
Yeah.
generally are determined by the party who is manufacturing them and selling them.
Right.
In this case, Tata Medical Diagnostics. So we get the information also from the media, and the latest media information that we got is that we tied up with Apollo in different cities
Yeah.
to go to for private, and also it is now available in the government e-marketplace, which is called the GEM. Government institutes can start buying it and using it. I have
Oh,
been told
okay.
that it is being already used in hospitals, certain hospitals in maybe perhaps in Delhi or someone. But these are information that we are only getting from news and media. So I'm not I don't have the full report. But yes, the idea is that it will be it goes out to as many people as possible and as soon
Right.
as possible.
I think that's really nice. Well, now my question is little different. Okay, so I mean, you are an award winner. Sitarist. You have been. I mean, you are not just for the sake of just playing the instrument, but you have taken it up as a professional. Which I think I have visited your site. I've seen your YouTube. It's awesome, and I think I will just take the links from you of your. I mean, I have those. I'll just put it once this our live is over and I edit the video. So I'll put the links in the description as well. And it is mesmerizing. So my question is that both science as well, I mean the type of science you do as well as the type of music you do, both needs unparalleled, dedication, determination, everything. So how do you balance this two things? That's very interesting to know actually. Yeah.
So I think I mean I'm nowhere close to as good as you're saying. I like I said, I'm
Welcome.
still learning the instrument, and I take lessons whenever I get an opportunity. Actually, music is something which has been very much pushed. So
Hmm.
for, at least in my case, studies and music were pushed equally by my parents. My mother was always going towards academics. My father was always pushing, and he's
Yes,
still
yes.
pushing me towards pursuing music.
Mhm.
And Thankfully, I have been always with the getting the support of a lot of people, whether in family
Right.
and as well as from my colleagues and so on. So it has never been difficult.
Mm.
What has happened is that with time and with so many engagements, the music part has actually gone a bit down, because I
I
don't really
understand.
get so much time to practice as I would like.
Mm-hmm.
But really, science and music are two aspects of how we look at a thing
Mm.
from a point of view of an aesthetic versus a very very how to say, a very rational way of looking at the same thing. So lot of scientists whom I know and whom we know about actually have kept music as an important component of their even the scientific progress. And I think we get a lot of encouragement, a lot of peace and solace from playing
Yes.
music, which I also get. I think it helps one to relax. And it's when it's all about it's in a creative, for a creative person, whether in science or in music, you need some kind of outlets, and this
Right.
provides kind of outlet. So like I said, that I've just learning this instrument, and I am
Mm-hmm.
really happy to do that. As long as it's one lifetime is not enough to even understand one rag very well. So it's I have got an excellent guru, by the way. I'm
Mm.
my I had a couple of them, one who has passed away late, Sunil Chaha, and
Mm.
then now
Mm.
Dr. Debojyoti Chakraborty.
Mm.
And as whenever I get time, I go to him and I learn. So that's the
Fantastic.
important. Yeah.
Amazing. So, Debojyoti, I would just request that because this is the time where we are all facing challenges in different ways in whoever we are or whatever level of career we are. So, what would be your message to our viewers? That is, with that, we will be concluding this talk show today. And I think I will again catch hold of you again when you are free and little bit, and again we will have several conversations. And I keep following your work, and I think it is fantastic. And I have been, it's really inspirational. And what I I understand is that the way you take science through your endeavors is more of towards translation of the research, and this is one thing which very much pretty well tunes in with my my what to say my ideas as well as my thought process. So I think you are doing a fantastic job. So I think a word of motivation or inspiration will really add value to particularly the young people, young mind, who are kind of little anxious because of the present time, and I really feel that they are in a really hard time. So I just request you that uh, can you what would be your message, because you are being a very inspiration now to the entire country, actually, to be very honest. Yeah.
That's I feel a bit embarrassed to hear that, because I'm
No.
very young. I'm just 35, so I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
probably somebody who can actually give motivational messages. But all that I can say is that, and I tell this to all my students also, is that it always helps to be curious, always asking questions.
Yeah.
That is, as a scientist or somebody who is in life in general, if you're always asking questions, it could be to the outer external world or also to one's
Hmm.
own self. And
Hmm.
this curiosity actually pushes one ahead, because it gives rise to answers, and those answers sometimes are wrong, sometimes are correct. As a scientist, we are always pushing with newer and fresh questions, because there is no end
Absolutely.
to learning. So the
There's no end
covid
to it. Yes.
Absolutely. So the COVID-19 has given a lot of opportunity to actually ask questions which are novel, which are very, very interesting. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the earlier they start coming, at school level, at college level or something,
Yes.
then you more or less have an idea that which is the direction that you want to go towards. And I think that is the biggest takeaway from this whole experience. So yeah.
Right, right. So thank you, Debojyoti, for joining today
Thank
and
you.
giving so much of time in spite of your
It
busy
was a
schedule.
pleasure. No, it was a
Thank
pleasure.
you so much, and we'll meet again in Eclectica. And I wish you a very happy New Year as well,
Thank you.
and
Same to you and
in
all the
advance.
viewers. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Same to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
So that was Dr. Debojyoti Chakraborty, and I think all of you have enjoyed. So with this, I will end this episode of Eclectica, and I will take leave for 2020, and I will come back in 2021 with more refreshing personalities. Till then, take care, stay safe, and have a very fabulous and happy New Year to all. Thank you so much for being tuning in with us and for being here. Thank you. Bye bye.